please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Subdates 231106.9. To start the week, we need to purge our memory banks of all reference to the anal-stashed warship. Apparently, this is what Subfleet want. They still don't know we intend to blow them up. Hi everyone! Bit of a lazy display today because I have a feeling this one's going to take a while to get through, although it might not. It's just one of the response videos within this is quite lengthy. There's always a chance I could reduce it down considerably, and I'm hoping I do because I don't know if I want you to suffer enough stupidity now that you can't make it through the rest of the week, and myself for that matter. The subject of the day is the term good morning, because according to the individual we're going to be covering today, saying good morning is racist, and that intrigues me. I'm sure it intrigues a lot of us.
My guy. So let's talk about where the word good morning originated from.
Oh good, a history lesson. As an Englishman with fairly lengthy historical knowledge, I'd like to tell you it can be traced back to 1150, used as typically an interjection. But it can also be traced back to 1802 in the writings of George Coleman, who was a playwright. A small part of me is concerned you're going to base the definition around America, because that is the center of the planet.
Good morning. Alright, so during slavery times, when the women used to mourn about their child being taken away and sold to a different slave master, or if one of the family members did something that resulted into them getting whipped or killed, most of these things used to happen in the evening time, when a child was sold off or somebody was getting whipped for something. The black women used to cry all night behind it. Not even just the women, the black people in general, all the black slaves. Male or female.
I've been educated enough to know that these harrowing times are certainly a lesson that humanity needs to learn from. And it's a shame it took so long for these lessons to be learned from. It's a shame also that these lessons still have not been learned from. As slavery still exists, and modern slavery exists, of course. Not going to try and take away from your point, because I'll then invariably have someone in my comments saying, "Oh, you're making it about this." No, I'm just pointing out that these still exist, and that this is not the worst thing to happen to humanity. Humanity existing is the worst thing to happen to humanity. I'm at least consistent on that.
When something happened to a family member, or a close friend or anything, they used to cry all night behind it. And when the slaves used to cry about what happened all night long, the white slave masters, the oppressors, will wake up in the morning time, and they'll tell the slaves, "Did you have a good morning?" Basically, did you have a good cry out? Did you do enough crying last night? Because of what happened to their family member a day prior?
As I'm not American, I'm going to believe you and that you are correct on this subject. I'm going to say that it is a terrible thing, if true. I'm English, we don't generally focus on history that doesn't go as far back as ours. We have a lot more culture than people would like to believe. Anyway, this video ties into the concept of saying good morning to other people and how you shouldn't. Let's see if we can get to that point.
So the white oppressors came up with good morning as a mockery towards black people during the slavery times, when they used to cry and mourn and grieve over what happened to somebody when they was whipped or killed or taken off to another plantation.
They came up with a version of good morning, but the letter U is quite important. It is a perversion of the term good morning that has existed long before the ships sailed and landed over there. As is well known at this point, words and definitions do in fact change. I am not going to justify what has happened in your history in the slightest, because it cannot be justified. I am going to say that if you give these words this much power, you are seeking either to control others through their use and limited use of, or you are seeking to control the speech itself, to prevent others from the freedom to speak.
So it was their way to make fun of the black slaves crying that night prior. So they would ask them, "Did you have a good morning? Did you have a good cry?" And they would laugh about it. So that was their way of being funny towards the black slaves when they would cry all night about somebody that was hung, somebody that was killed. That was their way to make fun of them. Y'all know what mourning mean. All they did was take the U off of it.
Can I send you an Oxford dictionary, please? Because I think it's quite important you actually know this. In fact, if you'd like, I could send you a link to the Oxford English Dictionary and they can just tell you where good morning actually came from. Hi, us, the English, not your slave masters of old. They just perverted it to bully, because that's what bullies do. And in that time, yes, there were some very nasty bullies. By today's standards, reprehensible bullies. It does not mean they created anything, which is quite normal with America. A lot of things are amalgamations of multiple different cultures smushed together until something works.
So nobody would think about what it really originated from. It was really a mockery towards black slaves and them making fun of what they did to their people when someone was or sold off to a different plantation.
The dead delivery is worse than mine. I have to admit, it's quite tiring, and I record stuff on a regular basis. How you manage to do that 45-second clip baffles me, especially when, if you'd done your research, you would know you're wrong. Now, video 2 was a direct response to a comment that you'd received. Now, this is normal for TikTok. You get comments, you respond to them. The comment was, someone told me this because he always say Grand Rising, and I asked him, so here it is.
My guy. Alright, so I woke up to a lot of comments today asking, where did you get this knowledge from? I woke up to people doing duets to my video, talking about etymology, and a whole lot of other stuff. I got a lot of people mad in the comments, and I got a lot of people happy in the comments.
Well, any excuse to say something different, and the etymology stuff is fascinating, no doubt. This is good for you though, really, isn't it? You got a lot of traction on your content, and that will undoubtedly help you grow your brand, expand your brand, raise awareness, educate people. Or is it edumacate? I'll ask you for an answer. Maybe you'll give me some better solutions.
Really don't matter to me. I'm not here to please nobody.
Obviously not. Your tone would be akin to that of somebody who's at a funeral.
You know, a lot of people that say that they woke, I noticed that a lot of y'all know that they start saying Grand Rising. A lot of y'all be like, where you get this research from? This is the type of knowledge that you can't find in history books. Some knowledge that I speak about you will not find on Google.
I sorely doubt that, because it took me a few seconds to find an article on Grand Rising, explaining that it is acknowledging each new day as a gift and taking time to set your intention for the day ahead. It is an African American tradition. Apparently someone did write it down. Worshipping the sun, though, in this manner is, to me, pointless. But that's because I'm considered more introverted. Also, I work indoors a lot. I couldn't give a crap if the sun is out or not, because I've got work to do. Simples, right? This is not as magical or mythical as you think it is, and also the way you are portraying this makes it seem like you're conjuring it out of your rooty tooty booty.
Like, let's be for real, history is his story. You really think the white man gonna put that in the books?
You'll find, if you actually bothered to pick up a book, that most of human history is kept. Now, yes, history is told typically by the victors, but we British are renowned for keeping all of our history and as much of it as we can to try and paint a more conclusive picture of the events that unfolded. Instead of just attacking or addressing things as the white man this, the white man that, why don't you just look it up? Libraries and internet are both very useful sources, and you'll find a lot of it is written down.
It's always been good morning. Then they came out with the other word morning.
I've already debunked this. I assume when you do your research for your projects, you base it solely on confirmation bias, only looking for what confirms what you already believe to be true, as opposed to looking at a simple origin. I'm sure someone can take it back further in other countries, but we Brits, again, we predate recorded history in the United States of America.
See, a lot of people that know this knowledge that I told y'all on this video, they was taught from their grandparents.
Yes, we learn a lot of things from our grandparents that aren't typically taught through the education system, because they were brought up under a different education system and they have life lessons they can pass down to us. This is not something that is exclusive to race, but the lessons that are taught can sometimes be exclusive to race and culture. You make it seem like it's more super secret. Is there a password?
Because this is knowledge that grandparents will teach you, that was taught to them from their grandparents, that was taught to them from their grandparents for generations and generations. And now they just taught you. This is not stuff that you gonna find in history books.
I might want to have a word with the grandparents then, because apparently they also don't know the history of things. they only know a version of a history, and it does not account for origin of actual terminology, which in turn means the lessons you have adopted and believed are partially correct, I'm sure they are when it comes to slavery, but incorrect when it comes to the root origin of the term.
I'm just telling y'all knowledge that was taught to me. Not everybody from the black community is gonna know this, because everybody lost their knowledge. A lot of people wasn't taught. Their family didn't teach them.
You mean to say they weren't taught, and that their family didn't teach them because perhaps they were sent to school instead? Also, can you argue that this is knowledge if it wasn't even written down or kept records of, so it could just be considered imaginary? I'm just pointing out there's a gap in your logic that means that when it's held up to scrutiny, it doesn't quite stack up, okay? Not that I believe or disbelieve, only that there is a flaw here.
And I'm sorry for those of you who wasn't taught, but don't be trying to come to me and try to knock down what I say because what was taught to me. So a lot of y'all can stay mad and keep trying to sound so educational, talking about etymology and all this other stuff. Okay, do you. Do you. But that ain't gonna change what I was taught.
They're not trying to change what you were taught. They're trying to point out that what you were taught could be incorrect. Without records to confirm it, it is asserted. Critical thinking is vitally important. Intellectual rigor, vitally important. When it comes to documenting history, it is vitally important to have records of everything. Now, yes, of course, in this there will be gaps. There are many gaps in American history. There are many gaps in many countries' histories. It's why we have historians, or if you want to be cute about it, remembrancers, who are trying to find all the details, everything we need to understand as much as possible. It's why articles talking about Grand Rising exist.
Have you ever heard a black person say when somebody tell them good morning, you will hear some of them say, "What's so good about morning?"
Fam, I've heard people of every single race say that, because it turns out many of them are only really functional when coffee's in the system, or because they would rather be asleep forever, which I fully understand. Life is pain. We can't all be amnesics though, fulfill a function and then suddenly go.
Those is people who know the truth, who was either taught by their grandparents or by somebody else's grandparents who knew the truth and who was taught down the line.
No, I think you'll find most of them just need caffeine.
These are the things that they don't want to be taught or brought up. But what's done in the dark will always come to the light.
Clearly you've never heard of curtains.
There are so many modern day rituals that originated from our ancestors' pain and suffering while in captivity. And it's okay, because a lot of y'all don't know the truth, so all y'all do is laugh and put, "Oh my gosh, is she serious?" I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
Your problem, and it's a prevailing problem you've had throughout both these videos, is that you provide no evidence to support your claim. Only that this was taught to you by your grandparent, who was taught them by their grandparent, who was taught them by their grandparent, and so on. This is not enough for anyone. It never will be. We want hard evidence. So you can say that people are staying mad because they're trying to poke holes. They've poked the hole and found a way through. You're just trying to fob them off and deflect and project and then divide even further by race, which is cute, isn't it?
Everything I talk about, I'm dead serious. I'm not coming on here to giggle and laugh with you, because to me it ain't a laughing matter. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be people that laugh and there's going to be people that take in the truth. It's really up to you at the end of the day. You can't help everybody.
I don't think it's about helping. It's more giving opportunity for clarity, which could be considered helping, I know. But ultimately, as you've said, you can't help everybody, and that includes you. But then that makes it seem like you don't want to be helped, yet you are about to do something involving understanding, which seems a bit strange and counterproductive at the same time.
Etymology, the study and the origin of words, in which their meanings have changed throughout history. Exactly, changed throughout history. It was morning, then they made morning. But the whole phrase good morning was a mockery towards the slaves.
No, it was not. I've already told you what it was, but as is often the case with many people that we have covered on this channel who are American, only American history and African history matter. It's very binary, which we, the rest of the world, that history is going back millennia, find quite adorable.
Whether if you want to believe it or not, I'm sorry your people didn't teach you. I'm sorry that your people lost their knowledge. All I'm doing is trying to help. And I just think it's weird how most people that do duets on me, It's always from a person who was a fan. Then they get mad because you don't want to follow them back. And so they try to use your videos to gain views.
Or spread misinformation to make a wider point that falls flat because the point is completely based on a revisionist interpretation of history.
And I mean, by all means necessary, do what you gotta do. But you ain't stopping nothing this way. For example, when you get a house, what do they tell you? Oh, this the master bedroom. The what now? You talking about the slave master bedroom? Okay.
You know earlier when you mentioned words' meanings changing? Yeah, this is another one of those ones. As far as the master bedroom thing goes, it's not as much of a thing over here. In the United Kingdom we use different terms. Single bedroom, double bedroom, things like that. Some might be called the master bedroom, but it isn't as much of a term in the United Kingdom as it is in America. Again, go figure, center of the world. There is a third video, by the way, that this creator puts out. Now, if you want me to cover that as well, it's quite long. I will cover it, but for that, I'm going to ask for something in return. 1,000 likes. And I will do a part 2 to this, covering the third time this person speaks on this subject, and final, they say. How exciting.